the shattered piece. The Carinth Collective had ruled the Outer Veil sector for nearly 400 years. Their empire stretched across 3 star systems, encompassing 12 worlds and countless stations. They were a warrior culture bred for combat and conquest. Their ships were massive constructs of dark metal and plasma weaponry. Their soldiers were trained from birth to view negotiation as weakness and surrender as death. They had never lost a war. They had never even considered the possibility. When the human ship appeared at the edge of their territory, the Carinth did what they always did with unknown vessels. They surrounded it with a dozen warships and demanded immediate surrender. The human ship did not fire. It did not run. It simply transmitted a message on all frequencies and waited. Warmaster Dravok received the transmission in his command chamber aboard the fortress station Kareth Prime. He was a towering figure even among his own kind, standing nearly 8 feet tall with 4 powerful arms and thick armored skin that had turned a deep crimson with age and battle scars. His 6 eyes focused on the view screen as a human face appeared before him. The woman was small by Carinth standards, perhaps 5.5 feet tall with dark hair pulled back in a tight formation. She wore a simple uniform of deep blue with golden insignia on her shoulders. Her expression was calm and professional, but her eyes held an intensity that made even Dravok pause for a moment. "Greetings to the Carinth Collective," the woman said. Her voice was steady and clear. "I am Ambassador Elena Reeves of the United Earth Coalition. We come in peace and friendship. Humanity has recently expanded into this region of space. We seek to establish diplomatic relations with all neighboring civilizations. We respect your sovereignty and your borders. We ask only for the same respect in return." Dravok leaned forward in his throne-like command chair. Around him, his senior officers exchanged glances. Several made gestures that in Carinth culture indicated amusement or contempt. "However," Ambassador Reeves continued, and now her expression hardened slightly, "I must be absolutely clear about one thing. Humanity values peace, but we will not tolerate aggression against our people. We have established colonies and mining operations and systems that fall within our claimed territory. These are marked clearly in the star charts we are transmitting to you now. We ask that you acknowledge these boundaries." She paused, and for a moment the chamber was silent except for the hum of the station's systems. "Should you choose to ignore this warning and attack our settlements or our people, there will be consequences. We will not negotiate. We will not accept apologies. We will not stop until justice is served. This is not a threat. It is simply the truth of who we are as a species. We hope it never comes to that. We genuinely wish for peaceful coexistence." The transmission ended. The human ship waited for a response. Dravok stood slowly, his 4 arms spreading wide in a gesture of dominance. "Scan that vessel," he commanded. "Full spectrum analysis. I want to know everything about their capabilities." His chief science officer, a younger Carinth named Telker, worked at his console for several minutes before reporting. "Warmaster, the vessel is small, perhaps 1/10 the mass of our destroyers. Their hull composition is primitive, mostly titanium alloys and basic composites. Their weapons appear to be kinetic projectiles and chemical explosives. Their power core reads as a simple fusion reactor. They are centuries behind our technology." Dravok nodded slowly. "And they dare to issue warnings to us? They dare to claim territory in our sector? Perhaps they do not understand the balance of power," suggested Velner, his tactical commander. "They are clearly a young species. They may not realize what they face." "Then we will educate them," Dravok said. But before he could issue orders, a soft chime echoed through the chamber. Every Carinth officer stiffened. It was the signal that the Watcher wished to speak. The Watcher was an artificial intelligence system created by the ancient Carinth, back when their civilization was young and still capable of innovation. It had guided the collective through countless conflicts and decisions. It analyzed data, predicted outcomes, and offered counsel. The Carinth had learned over centuries that ignoring the Watcher's advice was usually unwise. A holographic display activated in the center of the command chamber. The Watcher manifested as a swirling pattern of light and mathematical symbols, constantly shifting and recalculating. "Warmaster Dravok." The Watcher's voice was neither male nor female, neither warm nor cold. It simply was. "I have completed my analysis of the human species based on the transmission and their vessel's characteristics. I must advise extreme caution." Dravok's 6 eyes narrowed. "Explain." "The humans have classified themselves accurately. They are a young species relatively new to interstellar travel. However, my analysis of their evolutionary history, which I have extrapolated from biological scans and linguistic patterns, reveals a dangerous characteristic. Humans evolved as persistence predators on their home world. Persistence predators? Telker asked. What does that mean? It means they do not catch prey through superior speed or strength, the Watcher explained. They catch prey by never stopping the pursuit. Their ancestors would select a target and follow it for hours or even days until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. This hunting strategy is extremely rare among intelligent species. It requires exceptional endurance, determination, and most importantly, an inability to accept defeat. Drvok waved one of his arms dismissively. Ancient hunting patterns mean nothing in modern warfare. We have weapons that can shatter planets. We have ships that can cross star systems in days. What does it matter how their ancestors hunted animals? Because evolution shapes psychology, War Master. The human ambassador's warning was not a bluff or a political statement. It was a genuine description of how their species will respond to aggression. If you attack them, they will pursue you with complete disregard for cost or casualties. They will not stop. They will not negotiate. They will not forgive. This behavior is hardwired into their biology. Velner spoke up. Surely you are not suggesting we fear these primitives? Look at their ship. Look at their technology. They are barely capable of interstellar travel. Technology can be developed rapidly when a species is motivated, the Watcher replied. Psychological patterns cannot be easily changed. I have encountered 3 other persistence predator species in my databanks. One destroyed itself in endless civil wars. One was exterminated by a coalition of terrified neighboring species. The third is currently quarantined by Galactic consensus because contact with them is considered too dangerous. The command chamber fell silent. Drvok considered the Watcher's words carefully. He had been War Master for 20 years. He had led the Carinth to victory in 8 separate conflicts. He had crushed rebellions and conquered systems. He had never backed down from a challenge. But he had also never ignored the Watcher's advice before. What do you recommend? He asked finally. Accept the human boundaries. Establish diplomatic relations. Avoid conflict at all costs. The risk is too great. Drvok stood motionless for a long moment. Around him, his officers waited. Some looked convinced by the Watcher's analysis. Others looked skeptical. All looked to him for leadership. No, Drvok said finally. I will not allow fear of an unproven threat to dictate Carinth policy. These humans have claimed systems that contain valuable resources. Systems that rightfully belong to the collective. They arrive in our space with one primitive ship and expect us to bow to their demands. This is unacceptable. War Master, I strongly advise, the Watcher began. Your advice is noted and declined, Drvok interrupted. Prepare the 3rd battle fleet. We will send a message to these humans. We will show them what happens to species that overestimate their importance. The Watcher's holographic form pulsed once, then disappeared. The AI system had delivered its warning. It could do nothing more. Velner approached Drvok's throne. What are your orders, War Master? Drvok studied the star charts on his display. The humans had claimed 6 systems. 5 were of little interest, but the 6th contained a rich mining operation on a planet the humans called Kepler 442b. The colony was small, lightly defended, and economically valuable. We will strike their mining colony, Drvok decided. A swift, overwhelming attack. We will destroy their settlement and claim the planet for the collective. When they see what we are capable of, they will abandon their foolish claims and retreat to their own territory. And if they do not? Telker asked quietly. Then we will destroy their other colonies one by one until they learn respect. Drvok's 6 eyes glowed with confidence. Prepare the fleet. We attack in 3 days. The human ship waited at the border for 2 more days, hoping for a response to Ambassador Reeves' message. When no response came, the ship turned and departed, accelerating smoothly into hyperspace. The Carinth assumed it was fleeing. They did not realize it was simply going home to deliver a report. 3 days later, the Carinth 3rd Battle Fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442b system. 40 warships, each bristling with plasma cannons and missile batteries. They moved in perfect formation toward the human mining colony on the planet's surface. The colony was home to 50,000 people. Miners and their families, engineers, teachers, doctors, and children. They had early warning systems that detected the Carinth fleet the moment it arrived. Evacuation alarms sounded immediately. People rushed to shelters and escape pods. But there was not enough time. War Master Drvok watched from his flagship as his fleet opened fire. The colony's defensive shields lasted approximately 30 seconds. The plasma bombardment that followed was methodical and thorough. Habitation domes exploded. Industrial complexes melted into slag. Landing fields became craters. The orbital station was destroyed with a single concentrated barrage. Some escape pods managed to launch. Drvok ordered his gunners to target them. Most were destroyed before they could reach minimum safe distance. A handful escaped into the darkness between stars, carrying witnesses who would tell what happened here. The attack lasted 20 minutes. When it was over, 50,000 human beings were dead. The planet's surface still glowed with residual heat from the bombardment. Debris and frozen bodies orbited in slowly decaying trajectories. Drvok felt satisfied. The message had been sent clearly. The humans would understand now that the Carinth Collective was not to be challenged. War Master, Velner reported, we are detecting a transmission from the planet's surface. One of the communication arrays survived. Let me hear it, Drvok commanded. The view screen activated. A human face appeared, different from Ambassador Reeves but somehow similar in expression. This was a man, perhaps 50 years old, with graying hair and a face covered in dust and blood. Behind him, fires burned and alarms wailed. This is Director Samuel Hart of the Kepler 442b colony, the man said. His voice was steady despite the chaos around him. To whoever is listening, please send this message to Earth. Tell them what happened here. Tell them the Carinth attacked without warning or provocation. Tell them. He paused, coughing. Tell them we tried to evacuate. Tell them we had children here. Tell them. The transmission cut off as the communication array finally failed. Drvok closed the channel. Around him, his officers were celebrating. Some pounded their armored fists against consoles and gestures of triumph. Others exchanged congratulations on a successful operation. Only Velner remained silent, staring at the tactical display where 50,000 life signs had simply vanished. Return to Carith Prime, Drvok ordered. We will wait for the human response. When they send their diplomats begging for peace, we will dictate terms that benefit the collective. The fleet turned and jumped to hyperspace, leaving behind a dead world and 50,000 ghosts floating in the void. Back on Earth, in the headquarters of the United Earth Coalition, Ambassador Elena Reeves stood before the High Council. She had just received the transmission from Kepler 442b. She had watched Director Hart's final message. She had seen the casualty reports. 50,000 dead. Among them, 15,000 children. The council chamber was silent. 12 representatives from Earth's unified government sat in a semicircle, their faces reflecting shock and grief and something else. Something older and darker. They ignored our warning, Reeves said quietly. We gave them every chance. We offered peace. We clearly marked our boundaries. They chose to attack anyway. The council president, an elderly woman named Yuki Tanaka, spoke with a voice that trembled slightly. Ambassador Reeves, you delivered the warning exactly as we instructed. The fault lies entirely with the Carinth. The question now is how we respond. There is only one response, said another council member, Defense Minister James Morrison. We hunt them. Agreed, said another voice. Then another. Within minutes, all 12 council members had spoken. The vote was unanimous. Reeves nodded slowly. Then I recommend we appoint Admiral Marcus Chen to lead the response fleet. He has the most combat experience and he understands what is at stake. His brother was on Kepler 442b, President Tanaka said softly. His brother and his brother's wife and their 3 children. Is he capable of making rational decisions? He is capable of doing what needs to be done, Reeves replied. And that is what we need right now. The council agreed. Orders were sent immediately. Admiral Marcus Chen was in his quarters on the battlecruiser Resolute when the call came. He was 55 years old, a veteran of the resource wars that had unified Earth 2 decades earlier. He had commanded fleets in combat. He had made decisions that cost lives to save more lives. He was known throughout the military as a brilliant tactician and a fair commander. He was also known as a man who never left a debt unpaid. When he heard about Kepler 442b, when he saw his brother's name on the casualty list along with his sister-in-law and his nieces and nephew, something inside him went very cold and very quiet. He did not cry. He did not rage. He simply acknowledged the information and began making plans. When the council's orders arrived, appointing him to lead humanity's response, he accepted without hesitation. He assembled his senior staff in the Resolute's briefing room. They were the best officers humanity had, drawn from every nation and colony. They looked at him with respect and waited for his orders. The Carinth attacked Kepler 442b, Chin said simply. 50,000 dead. No survivors. They did this to send a message, to show us they are stronger, to make us afraid. He paused and looked at each officer in turn. They made a mistake. They thought we would negotiate. They thought we would accept their dominance. They thought wrong. His voice was calm, almost gentle. We are going to hunt them. We are going to pursue them across every system they control. We are going to dismantle their empire piece by piece. And when they beg for mercy, we are going to remember that they gave none to our children. One of his officers, Captain Sarah Mitchell, spoke up. Sir, the Carinth have superior technology. Their fleet outnumbers ours significantly. How do we fight them? Chin smiled. It was not a warm smile. We fight them the way humans have always fought. We don't need to be stronger. We don't need to be faster. We just need to never stop. They will learn what humanity is capable of. They will learn what it means to wake something that should have been left sleeping. He activated a holographic display showing the Carinth systems. This is our target. Not just their fleet. Not just their military. Their entire empire. We will cut their supply lines. We will strike their infrastructure. We will pursue them until they collapse from exhaustion and despair. This is not about revenge. This is about sending a message to the galaxy. A message that will echo for centuries. What message is that, sir? Another officer asked. Chen's eyes reflected the cold light of distant stars. That humanity warned them. That we gave them every chance. And that ignoring our warning was the last mistake they would ever make. The briefing room fell silent. Then one by one, every officer stood and saluted. They understood what was being asked of them. They understood that this war might last years. They understood that many of them would not survive. But they also understood that some things were worth any cost. The hunt was about to begin. The endless hunt. The mobilization of humanity happened faster than anyone thought possible. Within 72 hours of the Kepler 442b massacre, every human colony, station, and outpost had received the news. The images of the destroyed settlement were broadcast across all channels. The names of the dead were read aloud in every major city on Earth. 50,000 names. 15,000 of them children. Something changed in humanity that day. Old arguments between nations were set aside. Political disagreements that had seemed important became meaningless. Economic rivalries were forgotten. For the first time since Earth's unification, the entire species spoke with a single voice. And that voice demanded justice. Admiral Chin stood on the bridge of the Resolute, watching as his fleet assembled in high orbit above Earth. Ships arrived from every corner of human space. Military vessels that had been patrolling trade routes. Survey ships hastily retrofitted with weapons. Even civilian transports volunteered to carry supplies and troops. Within a week, Chin commanded over 200 vessels. Within a month, that number had doubled. But numbers were not enough. The Carinth still had superior technology and centuries of military experience. Chin needed something else. He needed to understand his enemy. Show me everything we know about the Carinth, he ordered his intelligence officer, Commander David Park. Park brought up holographic displays showing Carinth physiology, culture, and military doctrine. They are a warrior species, Admiral. They have been conquering neighboring systems for 400 years. Their military strategy relies on overwhelming force and shock tactics. They have never fought a prolonged conflict. Every war they have won has been decided in a few major battles. Chin studied the information carefully. They have never fought a prolonged conflict, he repeated slowly. That means they have never needed to develop supply line protection or long-term logistics planning. Their entire military structure is built for short, decisive campaigns. Correct, sir, Park confirmed. Their supply convoys are lightly defended. They assume no enemy would dare attack their rear areas while their main fleet is present. Chin smiled. Then we will teach them a new kind of war. We will not give them the decisive battle they expect. We will bleed them slowly. We will strike their convoys, their outposts, their infrastructure. We will make them chase us across their own territory until they exhaust themselves. Captain Mitchell frowned. Sir, that could take months or even years. The Carinth will have time to adapt and reinforce. No, Chin said quietly. They will not have time. Because we will never give them rest. We will attack constantly from every direction at every opportunity. They will spend so much energy responding to threats that they will have no energy left for offense. That is how persistence predators hunt. We tire our prey before we strike the killing blow. He turned to his communications officer. Send a message to the Carinth leadership. I want them to know what is coming. The message was simple and direct. Admiral Chen's face appeared on Carinth view screens across their empire. He wore his dress uniform and stood alone against a backdrop of stars. War Master Dravok, Chen said. His voice was calm and professional. I am Admiral Marcus Chen of the United Earth Coalition. You attacked our colony at Kepler 442b. You killed 50,000 of our people without warning or mercy. You did this believing we would be afraid. You were wrong. He paused and his expression hardened. We warned you what would happen if you attacked us. You ignored that warning. Now you will learn what it means. We are coming for you. We will pursue you across every system you control. We will dismantle your empire. We will destroy your military capability. And we will not stop until the job is finished. This is not a threat. This is a promise. You had your chance for peace. That chance is gone. The transmission ended. Across Carinth space, military commanders watched the message with varying degrees of concern. Some dismissed it as empty bravado from an inferior species. Others remembered the Watcher's warnings and felt the first stirrings of unease. War Master Dravok watched the transmission in his command chamber. Around him, his officers waited for his response. He was silent for a long moment, his 6 eyes fixed on the blank screen. Velner, he said finally, what is our fleet strength? 160 combat vessels, War Master. Plus support ships and defense stations. We outnumber the humans nearly 2 to 1. And our intelligence on human capabilities? Their ships are faster than ours but less durable. Their weapons have shorter range but higher rate of fire. Their crews appear well-trained but lack combat experience against a major power. Velner hesitated. However, War Master, they have shown remarkable ability to coordinate operations across multiple systems simultaneously. Their communication networks are surprisingly sophisticated. Dravok nodded slowly. They are trying to frighten us with bold words. It will not work. Deploy the 2nd and 5th fleets to reinforce our border systems. Increase patrols on all supply routes. And send a message to our subject species. Any who provide intelligence or assistance to the humans will be considered traitors and dealt with accordingly. Yes, War Master. Velner moved to relay the orders but paused. What about the Watcher's analysis? Should we? The Watcher predicted doom based on ancient hunting patterns, Dravok interrupted. We are not prey animals fleeing across plains. We are the Carinth Collective. We have conquered civilizations far more advanced than these humans. They will learn the price of challenging us. But even as he spoke, the first human strikes were already underway. The attacks came from nowhere. Small groups of human ships appeared at the edges of Carinth systems, launched volleys of missiles at supply convoys, and vanished into hyperspace before defense forces could respond. They hit fuel depots, supply stations, communication relays. None of the strikes were individually devastating, but they happened constantly. Every few hours, somewhere in Carinth space something exploded. The Carinth military scrambled to respond. They sent patrol ships to guard every convoy. They fortified every outpost. They established defensive perimeters around critical infrastructure. But there was too much territory to defend and too few ships to defend it. And the humans seemed to know exactly where the weakest points were. Admiral Chen directed operations from the Resolute, which never stayed in one place for more than a few hours. His fleet was divided into dozens of strike groups, each operating independently. They used tactics that were old on Earth but new to the Carinth. Hit and run. Guerrilla warfare. Asymmetric combat. The humans did not try to win battles. They simply tried to drain Carinth resources and morale. Admiral, Commander Park reported during one planning session, our reconnaissance ships report that the Carinth are pulling forces back from their outer systems. They are consolidating around their core worlds. Good, Chen said. That means they are already thinking defensively. How are their supply lines holding up? Strained but not broken. However, their fuel consumption has increased dramatically. They are burning resources at 3 times their normal rate just trying to patrol their own territory. Chen studied the tactical display. Red markers showed Carinth military positions. Blue markers showed human strike groups. The humans were outnumbered but they were everywhere at once. Continue the pressure. I want attacks every 4 hours in different systems. Keep them off balance. Keep them exhausted. The strategy was working but it came at a cost. Human ships were being lost too. Not in large battles but in small skirmishes and accidents. Crews pushed themselves to the limit of endurance. Some ships suffered mechanical failures from constant operations. Others made mistakes from exhaustion and were destroyed by Carinth forces. But the humans did not stop. Every lost ship was replaced. Every fallen crew member was honored and their mission continued. The entire human economy had transformed into a war machine. Factories produced weapons and ships around the clock. Scientists developed new technologies specifically designed to counter current advantages. Civilians volunteered in numbers that overwhelmed recruitment centers. 2 months into the war, War Master Dravok stood in his command chamber reviewing casualty reports. The Current had lost 37 ships. Not destroyed in battle but picked off one by one while on patrol or escort duty. Fuel reserves were down to 60%. Supply convoys required 3 times their normal escort strength, which meant fewer ships available for offensive operations. And morale was beginning to crack. "This is not war," Dravok said to Velner. "This is harassment. They are like parasites biting and fleeing, biting and fleeing. Where is their fleet? Where is their courage?" "They are using strategy, War Master," Velner replied carefully. "They are forcing us to defend everything while they can attack anything. It is effective." Dravok's 6 eyes blazed with anger. "Then we will force them to fight. Prepare the first battle fleet. We will strike at their closest colony. We will make them come to us." "War Master," the Watcher's voice spoke from its terminal. The AI had remained silent since Dravok ignored its initial warning, but now it spoke again. "I must advise against this course of action. You are responding emotionally exactly as the humans intend. They are manipulating you into—" "Silence," Dravok roared. "I will not be lectured by a machine about tactics. Prepare the fleet. We attacked their colony at Tau Ceti in 3 days." The Carinth First Battle Fleet was impressive. 60 warships, the elite of their military, commanded by War Master Dravok himself. They jumped into the Tau Ceti system expecting to find a lightly defended colony. Instead, they found Admiral Chen waiting for them. The human fleet had tripled in size. Over 600 ships now bore the insignia of the United Earth Coalition. They had been gathering quietly while the Carinth focused on defending their own territory. Now they revealed themselves in full force. Dravok stared at the tactical display in disbelief. "This is impossible. Our intelligence said they had 400 ships at most. Where did these vessels come from?" "War Master," Telker reported, his voice shaking. "I am detecting massive energy signatures from the human fleet. They have developed new weapons. Some kind of directed energy system we have not encountered before. All ships, battle formation," Dravok commanded. "We will crush them with superior firepower. Commence attack." The battle lasted 6 hours. The Carinth ships were more heavily armed and armored, but the human vessels moved with coordinated precision that seemed almost supernatural. They flowed around Carinth formations like water, striking weak points and retreating before counterattacks could be organized. Their new energy weapons, developed specifically to penetrate Carinth armor, proved devastatingly effective. But the humans paid a price too. Over 90 human ships were destroyed in the battle. Thousands of human soldiers died. Admiral Chen watched from the Resolute's bridge as ship after ship vanished from his tactical display. Each one represented lives lost, families destroyed, futures ended. But he did not flinch. He did not hesitate. He pressed the attack relentlessly. By the end of the 6th hour, the Carinth First Battle Fleet was shattered. 40 of their 60 ships were destroyed or too damaged to fight. The remaining vessels retreated in disorder, jumping to hyperspace in random directions just to escape the carnage. Dravok's flagship was among the survivors, but barely. His bridge was filled with smoke and sparks. Half his crew was dead or wounded. His 6 eyes stared at the view screen where human ships moved through the debris field, searching for survivors to rescue. "They are saving our wounded," Velner said in astonishment. "Even after everything, they are rescuing our crew members who survived." Dravok said nothing. He could not speak. The scale of the defeat was too enormous to process. He had lost 2/3 of his fleet. The pride of the Carinth military had been broken by a species that should have been easy prey. A transmission came through. Admiral Chen's face appeared on the view screen. He looked tired, his uniform was scorched, and there was blood on his face from a minor wound. But his eyes were as cold and determined as ever. "War Master Dravok," Chen said. "Your fleet is destroyed. Your empire's military capability is crippled. This war is over. Surrender now and we will accept reasonable terms. Refuse and we will continue the pursuit. The choice is yours." Dravok found his voice. "You cannot possibly continue. You lost nearly 100 ships in this battle. Your forces must be exhausted. You need time to regroup and resupply." Chen's expression did not change. "War Master, you still do not understand. We do not need to regroup. We do not need rest. We will pursue you without stopping. That is what we are. That is what we do. We warned you before you attacked Kepler 442b. We told you exactly what would happen. You ignored the warning. Now you pay the price. This is madness, Dravok said. No species fights like this. No civilization sacrifices so much for mere revenge. This is not revenge, Shin replied quietly. This is justice. And this is a message to every other species in the galaxy. Humanity tried peace. We offered friendship. We clearly marked our boundaries. You chose to attack us anyway. You chose to kill our children. Now the galaxy will learn what happens when you make that choice. The transmission ended. Dravok's flagship limped toward Carinth home territory, trying to regroup with what remained of the Empire's scattered forces. But the human fleet followed. Always following. Never stopping. Never resting. Over the next 4 months, the Carinth Empire crumbled. Human strike groups pursued their ships across a dozen systems. Carinth colonies began surrendering without a fight, preferring human occupation to continued warfare. Subject species that the Carinth had conquered centuries ago saw their opportunity and rebelled. The entire structure of the Empire collapsed under the relentless pressure. Warmaster Dravok made his final stand in the Andera Nebula, a vast cloud of gas and dust where sensors were unreliable and navigation was treacherous. He had gathered the last 15 functional Carinth warships. He was prepared to fight to the death. Admiral Chen's fleet surrounded the nebula but did not immediately attack. Instead, Chen sent a transmission directly to Dravok's flagship. War Master, Chen said when Dravok answered. Your empire is gone. Your military is destroyed. Your subject species have abandoned you. Further resistance is pointless. I am offering you one final chance to surrender. Your crew will be treated according to the laws of war. You will face trial for the massacre at Kepler 442b, but you will be given a fair hearing. This is more mercy than you showed our people. Dravok looked around his ruined bridge. His officers were exhausted, wounded, defeated. Velner stood nearby, his 4 arms hanging limply at his sides. Even the Watcher's terminal was dark, its power systems damaged beyond repair. Why? Dravok asked. His voice was hoarse. Why did you pursue us so far? You could have stopped after the first battle. You could have accepted our surrender months ago. Why continue when we no longer pose a threat? Chin was silent for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft but unyielding. Because you needed to understand something that you never learned in 400 years of conquest. You needed to understand that some species will not accept domination. Some species will not bow to force. Some species will pursue justice no matter the cost. He paused, and his expression softened slightly with sadness. My brother died at Kepler 442b. His wife. His 3 children. They were teachers and artists and dreamers. They never hurt anyone. You killed them to make a point. You killed 50,000 people to demonstrate your power. Chen's eyes hardened again. We pursued you this far so that you would understand the price of that choice. So that every other species in the galaxy would see what happens when you ignore humanity's warnings. We wanted peace, War Master. We genuinely wanted to be your neighbors and friends. You chose war. Now you have learned what human determination truly means. Dravok closed his 6 eyes. He thought of the Watcher's warnings ignored in his arrogance. He thought of the Kepler 442b colonists, dismissed as easy targets. He thought of all the choices that had led to this moment. I surrender, he said finally. I surrender on behalf of all remaining Carinth forces. We will face your justice. The final Carinth warships powered down their weapons and submitted to human boarding parties. Dravok was taken into custody along with his surviving officers. They would face trial for war crimes. They would answer for the deaths at Kepler 442b. But they would be given due process, legal representation, and the right to present their defense. They would receive the justice they had denied to others. 3 weeks later, Admiral Chin stood before the United Earth Coalition Council to deliver his final report. The war was over. The Carinth Empire had been dismantled. Their military had been dissolved. Their territory had been placed under temporary galactic oversight while their subject species negotiated new governments. Reparations had been arranged. Justice was being served. The Carinth learned their lesson, Chin told the council. But more importantly, the galaxy learned something too. They learned that humanity keeps its promises, both the promise of friendship and the promise of consequences. They learned that we will pursue justice to any distance and at any cost. They learned that ignoring our warnings is not advisable. President Tanaka nodded slowly. Admiral, your service has been exemplary. But I must ask, was this pursuit truly necessary? We lost over 200 ships and 15,000 personnel. Could we have achieved the same result with less cost? Chen considered the question carefully. Madam President, we did not fight this war just to defeat the Carinth. We fought it to establish humanity's place in the galactic community. We fought it to ensure that no other species would make the same mistake. The cost was high, but the alternative would have been higher. If we had stopped after the first battle, others would have seen weakness. They would have tested us again and again. Now they know. Now they understand. He paused, looking at each council member in turn. We gave the Carinth every chance for peace. We warned them clearly. We marked our boundaries. We offered friendship. They chose to attack anyway. They chose to kill our children. What happened to them was not revenge. It was the natural consequence of their choices. And that consequence had to be severe enough that no one would ever make the same choice again. The council chamber was silent for a long moment. Then President Tanaka spoke again. The galaxy will remember this war for centuries. What do you think they will remember most? Chin smiled slightly. They will remember that humanity tried peace first. They will remember that we gave clear warnings. They will remember that we offered every opportunity to avoid conflict. But most of all, they will remember that when we make a promise, we keep it. Good or bad, kind or harsh, we keep our promises. That is who we are. That is what makes us human. In orbit above Earth, the remaining ships of humanity's fleet drifted in formation. They had pursued their enemy across a dozen star systems. They had fought when necessary and shown mercy when possible. They had proven that humanity's warnings were not empty threats but statements of absolute truth. The stars watched in silence. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity had taken its place among the civilizations of the cosmos, not through conquest or domination, but through determination and unwavering resolve. The warning had been ignored once. It would not be ignored again. And in the cold darkness between stars, the message echoed across 1,000 worlds and 1,000 languages. Humanity had spoken. Humanity had acted. And humanity would always keep its word. The hunt was over. The lesson was learned. And peace, genuine and lasting peace, finally had a chance to take root.